Morning. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. It is I, Mike Martins, going over some of Canada's top real estate stories. I got Steve the Plumber on the phone, that's co-hosting the show. Steve?
Hello, hello, hello.
Steve the Plumber is here in the house, and we're going to go over some better dwelling stories. Before we go over any of the top stories, cheat sheet for the week, Steve, what's going on in Toronto? You had a story you wanted to tell, and I told you to hold on to it because I want to bring it up on the show. So go ahead, tell us what's going on. You said something about a house foreclosure?
Yeah, so it's a property that we assisted on just a little over, I guess, 2 months now. And it's finally hit the market, and organized real estate for the first time in a very, very long time. I finally have openly seen a member of organized real estate list the property as a power sale.
Okay. And how much lower is the property going for?
Approximately $250,000 below what it would have sold for approximately, I would say, about 6 months ago.
Holy, it's dropped that much. Holy smokes. That's a big deal, dude. That's a huge drop. That's a lot. How many people do you think are floating underwater right now? Gasping for air.
Probably about, I would say 70% of the people under the age of 55.
That's catastrophic. I would have figured it may be 30-40%, but 70 is huge.
Yeah, I think people, about 70% of people are very, very, very concerned, and at the point where if something drastic happens or another nail in the coffin, it's done. It's just too close to call. So that's why I'm saying it's about 70%.
Oh, that's huge, Steve. Okay, I got an article here. It's really we're gonna go over the headlines here for this week's for Better Dwellings top stories. This week's top stories: Toronto and Vancouver real estate pre-sales drop, industry lower sales forecasts. Wow. So this is time for your weekly cheat sheet of this week's most important stories. So Canadian real estate lowers 2019 sales forecast for the third time. So Steve, they forecasted 2019 real estate once, and then they said, no, that's really a big expectation. Lowered it a second time, and now they lower it a third time because their expectations were way too high.
And I think by the end of Q1, they will have lowered it yet again to the point where people are hopefully finally going to realize that organized real estate have no idea what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And they make these predictions and everything else. How can you predict something when sales are falling?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
the only data you have is a negative connotation towards the market. And if anybody wants to believe or tries to believe that house prices are continuing to rise, how do house prices rise when nothing's selling?
That's right. And people can't secure financing. That's the major issue. No one could secure financing. And quite likely what's going to happen is nothing's going to sell. Because this is not 30, 40 years ago where the average person could save in 5 years and actually buy a house free and clear and or save and put a 50% down payment in a couple of years working. Those times are gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the Canadian real estate industry lowers. Forecast for the third time, CRE now expects $458,200. The CREA now expects 458,200 sales in 2018, down 11.2% from the year before. The decline is another downward version from a 9.8% decline in September, a 7.9% decline in February. This is the most recent revision, means they're expecting the fewest December sales in years. Wow. So for 2019, they're actually having to restack everything because they've actually were dead wrong for 2018 when it came to forecasting. They were 11.2% and 9.8% and 7.8% dead wrong. Okay.
That's a pretty big mistake.
That is huge, man. Okay, now, next article. Canadian real estate drops 12% in Vancouver. Decline is almost 3 times larger. Speaking of those downwards sales revisions, Canadian real estate sales continue to slide. CREA reported 33,318 in sales in November, down 12.54% compared to the same month last year. So they're incomparables. They're looking at last year, Steve, and it's down 12.54% from last year. And this is for Vancouver's sales drop. This is the 11th consecutive month we've seen declines, and the trend seems to be pointing towards lower sales. What do you think?
I think that number is probably the furthest thing from being accurate. Their data is flawed. They don't know how to measure a real estate market.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that can measure a real estate market in today's day and age.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that their numbers could be off as much as 10 or 15%.
Yeah, okay. But that's still pretty high. If it's down 12.54% from 1 year, that's huge. So anyone that bought at the top is screwed. Anyone that bought in the last 2.5 years is screwed.
Yeah, the last 2.5, 3 years is royally screwed. That's correct.
Okay, next article. British Columbia real estate market are still the fastest cooling in Canada. Canadian real estate demand is slipping in all 3 cities in the country. Montreal, Ottawa, and Quebec City saw all 3 rise when compared to last year. The indicator of relative measure of demand weakened across the country. So a lot of people, Steve, what happened was they moved to Quebec, Montreal, and Ottawa, and now spiking up the prices of housing there because they left the GTA, they left Vancouver, they left all these major cities, and they moved up north because they figured they could get a better chance in life or a better opportunity. What do you think?
Well, I think everybody's moving to higher ground where things are much more affordable. There's a mass exit out of Toronto and Vancouver right now. There's quite a few different factors.
Could it be that real estate sales are going down in the fact of the matter is that there's no one in those cities to buy anymore because everyone's just leaving? Could it be that?
It could very well be that the mass exit is a direct result of people just not being able to qualify anymore and having to get on with life. Because a house, I've said it 1,000 times, a house is only worth what someone can, afford to pay for it and furthermore qualify for. Yeah. So if you can't put a first charge mortgage on a property because, the average person can't, in that city per se, cannot go ahead and qualify for it and does not make enough money, well, you know what? That house isn't going to sell. The only way it's going to sell is as house prices come down to, a better level where they're not so disproportionate to wages.
That's right. Okay, now let's hit Toronto real estate now. Another article. Toronto new condo sales fall over 53% as inventory spikes higher. Steve, remember I've been arguing on this channel for the longest time, not with you, but with the articles I was reading over the last 5 years, 6 years about the supply and demand issue. There's an oversupply right now in condos in Toronto. What happened to the supply versus demand issue, Steve?
It was all a farce.
So that's probably...
It was all pent-up demand.
Yeah, pent-up demand. So Toronto new condo sales fall 53%, inventory spikes higher. Seeing higher inventory and sales continue. Sales continue, and that's the key, to decline. There were 2,823 new homes and pre-sales in November, down 20.59% from last year. City of Toronto condos represented the largest decline, where 1,124 units were sold, down 53.64% from... down 53.64% from last year, dude!
Yep. And Mike, I want to ask you something. Take a wild guess, okay? And this should tell you, because Vancouver's gone through it, and Toronto kind of mirrors Vancouver. Vancouver just raised their property tax, correct?
Well, they have to because property values are going down, and Vancouver needs that passive income to remain the same.
That's right, in terms of keeping things moving, so Now in Toronto, that slowdown that you just mentioned, they haven't factored in, you know, anything past 2018. But as of right now, with respect to the real estate slowdown, what do you estimate it's going to cost Toronto?
Oh Christ! It's going to cost more than it's going to cost Toronto a lot because one, it's going to be very hard to replace those tax-paying citizens that mass exited the city and the GTA to live in other cities and boroughs because they couldn't afford to live in the GTA. That's the biggest hindrance Toronto will have, and I see a big campaign in 2020 and 2021 after the crash and everything. I believe that there's going to be a huge big campaign for Toronto and Vancouver to come and move there, that the city is beautiful and move to Toronto. It's a great place to live. They're going to do a worldwide campaign because the Canadian proper can't live there anymore. And even after the crash, a lot of people, I think, have lost faith in the city of Toronto. And you know what? It's going to be pretty bad because once you don't have people paying taxes and blue-collar workers to tax, you're in a lot of trouble. So I see a huge campaign for Toronto and Vancouver promoting people to move there because it's going to get so bad.
Very well then. On December 10th, the Globe and Mail reports real estate slowdown to cost Toronto nearly $100 million.
That's huge. That's huge. But they're not even factoring in the loss of blue collar workers. That is the biggest problem, Steve. Because once the city cannot collect off these workers or blue collar workers, white collar workers, private sector workers, the city's finished, Steve. That's the nail in the coffin right there. Screw securing financing. No one could do that anymore. So you can wipe that off the table. Look at the oversupply. Everybody leaving. People leave. Guess what? Those municipalities don't get the taxes anymore.
Absolutely. I'll read you the first paragraph of this article.
Go ahead.
Toronto's cooling real estate market is on track to cost its municipal government nearly $100 million in tax revenue, something critics of Mayor John Tory warn could force the city to choose between higher property tax hikes or cuts to services in next year's city budget.
Yeah, so they're gonna cut garbage collection. They're gonna cut everything in all ends, ways, in all means possible yeah, it's gonna be pretty bad because what's gonna happen, Steve, is they're not gonna be collecting that revenue they did from the houses from the property tax that they used to, and because there's nobody buying them, it's gonna make it even worse. And with 109,000 empty units in the city of Toronto, it's not a laughing matter, Steve. This is like biblical proportion real estate destruction.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree with you more. I just skimmed through the article. Similar to Vancouver, it says to recoup the $100 million hole created by the land transfer tax decline with property taxes alone, with no other cuts or new revenue, residential rates would have to rise by close to 4% next year.
What?
Yep.
Okay, that's Steve, that's huge.
Yep, you're going to see a lot of inventory come on the market.
Yeah, well, if taxes go up, people are going to be selling more. So I guess maybe rate hikes have been kind of simmering the market down and putting more inventory on the market. But now with property taxes going up, they need that passive income to come in. And if the city start losing that passive income, and if property prices do go down, the city loses. What's the city going to do? Send you a notice of assessment and appraise your house $200,000 more than what it is so they can make more money off it? That's robbery.
Yeah. I agree. The other side of the coin is, Torontonians pay about 16-18% less in property taxes when compared to the outskirts of the GTA.
Interesting. That's not good. Okay, let's continue here now. Like another article here. Let me finish that one. Toronto condo prices. Let me finish that one. Where was it? No, it wasn't that one. Okay, it's down 53.64% from last year. No, it wasn't because of tighter inventory. There were 16,797 units for sale at the end of the month, an increase of 42.94%. So there's an over. Steve, is it okay for us to say, arguably, that there is an oversupply of product on the market right now?
Yeah, you could definitely say that, because I've no doubt, Toronto's going to have to raise property taxes.
Okay.
No doubt, there's going to be a lot of inventory on the market as a direct result of that. Because if you drove downtown Toronto right now in these fully occupied, sold-out buildings,
Yeah.
there is probably, I would say, close to 30% that are just vacant,
Yeah.
just sitting there. Yeah. No lights on, no form of human life. They are absolutely vacant. And as soon as it starts costing these foreign buyers and these speculators 4% more on their property tax, you're going to see a lot of inventory on the market.
Wow. Okay, Vancouver. So let's go to Vancouver real estate. The next article by Better Dwelling said Vancouver real estate pre-sales fall 62%. New launches 31% below expectation. So there's great expectations for the city of Vancouver when it comes to real estate. But Steve, it doesn't look like it's anything in the positive, eh? Vancouver real estate pre-sales dropped, potentially delaying more inventory. There were just 487 sales in November, dude. 487 sales in November, down 62% from last year. Meanwhile, 1,298 units were launched last month, an increase of 38.89% from last year. While that's a lot of units launched, it was 31% below the industry forecast for the month. That means more inventory could launch after the later date as sales continue to decline. Again, another problem.
Mike, organized real estate will say that 2017 was an anomaly, and it's a very slow time of year for real estate. So don't get your panties in a knot.
Okay. Vancouver condo prices, largest single month price drop ever. Greater Toronto condo prices, the largest monthly drop in history of the benchmark index REBGV, reported 667,800 in November, down 2.29% from the month before. The annual rate of growth is now just 2.3% for condos across the board. The big story, however, is that 15 large monthly price drop. The benchmark is a multi-unit average, meaning you'd need even bigger drop to make such an abrupt movement. So it is moving, but not as fast as they expect it to. But it is when more inventory starts slamming the market and a lot of people start dropping in the rears. Any last words, Steve?
No, you said it great, Mike.
Okay, well, Steve, thanks so much for being here with us for this little segment of Canada's top real estate stories here. And we'll keep us on the pulse. We'll keep you on the pulse, and we'll update each other. Okay?
Absolutely. You take care. So good to be with you, Mike.
Good night. Bye. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my backup channel for live streaming. Thanks for watching.